Destiny 1 day 1 year 1. Okay, like we're just now getting, and it's not out now, getting the ability to recreate your character.
Destiny's a weird game when it comes to replayability. Like, we're talking about Final Fantasy being a great game to continue playing, but a very hard game to start playing. And people talk about, World of Warcraft has done so much, or New World, and some of these are great games to start playing, but then the end game of that community might have some serious frustrations about what is asked of them to continue playing World of Warcraft. Destiny is the only one that says, like, we'll give you reasons to keep playing, we'll give you reasons to start playing, but by God, don't take a break. Like, when you come back to Destiny, there's no ability to like restart. Like, you're just lost. Like I don't know how often you take breaks from the end Joker, but like as somebody that takes breaks from Destiny, when I come back, I would love to delete. Like, I want to just start over. Like, I don't know. They're like, well, your character remembers everything. Okay, but I don't. Like, what is all the buttons? What does everything do? Where do I go? Like, I'm lost.
So, I mean, like, this year has probably been the least I've played the game. I think I'm like level 50 on the season pass or whatever. I was like 40 last time, and it's really easy to hit 100 if you just show up. But like with the way that Destiny, the new player experience in Destiny is non-existent. They realized, I guess, a couple of years ago, back when they started vaulting content, that the key feature of Destiny are the raids. Problem is, only 13% of the community actually play the raids, at least according to them way back in the day. And I don't see that having changed, because looking at just the Final Fantasy coming out on Xbox, I had my people who play Destiny, who follow me, who were asking about like different aspects of Final Fantasy. And they're like, we don't have to play raids, do we? And I'm like, okay, this is going to blow your mind. But like raids in Final Fantasy, they're both easier and harder than Destiny raids. But you're going to be way more equipped to play a Final Fantasy raid than you have ever been equipped to play a Destiny raid, because you're going to learn how to play the game.
Can I ask you a question?
And raids are just the ultimate like culmination of learning how to play the game.
Just out of curiosity, would you say, because I haven't been tapped into the Destiny 2 community since like launch, would you say that it's easier because the average player knowledge is higher, or because of design?
The average player knowledge is higher, definitely. Because like I said this earlier, you go and you play Vault of Glass. Vault of Glass has been a raid since Destiny 1. Yes, it got a little changed when they remade it for Destiny 2, but barely. And there are people who still don't know how to play it. This is a 10-year King's Fall barely got changed.
So
and people don't know how to play
it. They invent new mechanics for each raid tier, and they come up with new ways to telegraph them and new ways to solve them, and it's a really fun problem for the raid community. There's a whole event and spectacle around watching people solve these problems. That's the world first. It's like new viewership records, like every tier. It's amazing. But then that content, as it ages, because of their syncing system, which is different, but is an equally chronic problem as vaulting, but also because those mechanics aren't reused over and over. Solving them was part of the fun the first time. That knowledge gets lost. It's like an old book burning. Like, it's just so. Yeah. As opposed to Final Fantasy, we're still seeing mechanics that we saw in ARR. They still get used. Like, you see your first stack marker, there will be content in Dawn Trail that none of us have seen, that there will be a stack marker, and we will all stack. Like, day one.
And they rip off that.
We will stack because we've been trained to stack.
Yeah. Well, they build those basic verbs, and then it still managed to create interesting things. I mean, limit cut gets used to this day and is from Heaven's Word originally, right? And I think the other cool thing is you look at the redos of King Moggle and like Castrum, like the redos of stuff they did in ARR. One of the things they did is added all the universal symbols. And even the first trial you're going to do in the MSQ is basically King Moggle doing all of the universal types of markers, the stacks, the spreads, the tank buster, the like dual tank, so that people are learning very early on.
Right. And if Destiny's problems sound a lot like World of Warcraft's problems, it's because Destiny 2 for the longest time was directed under Luke Smith, who was a huge World of Warcraft fan. He was like, I was Scarab Lord back in the day. And
that tells me everything.
That's so bizarre, because there's things about Destiny that are so different. Like Like when you're fighting enemies just in basic open world Destiny, the types are so repeated, and like it becomes very easy of like, this is where that one's vulnerable spot is. And I come back to the game and I don't know where to get gear. I don't know where to pick up quests. I don't know how to teleport to the newest content. Like, I don't know all the new features. I don't know what any of the new unique like guns do. But then I see something and I immediately know where its critical hit spot is. I don't know why. Just the moment I see it in my brain, it's like, oh yeah, that's where that is. Because
there is something intuitive. They did do a.
So I don't know why they weren't able to have that same efficiency with mechanics. Because like 14, I could take all the time off in the world and I would come back and I would immediately recognize a stack marker. Like it's telegraphed and it's taught. And when those things meet, like I can't help but know it. As opposed to World of Warcraft, you take me back into like, if there was like a synced equivalent of Serpent Shrine Cavern today, I was a raid lead in Serpent Shrine Cavern. I'm still going to not know all the mechanics. Because I'm just not. Like there's no way to have memorized all those to the degree because they weren't, it's not like I was doing that same fight mechanic for a decade. I was learning that one for those fights, and then now there's different fights.
Well, it's kind of like Nyao Nyao or whatever their name in chat. It's like Destiny doesn't treat bosses like bosses, and that's absolutely true. They're just over sized bullet sponges for a lot of them. And the problem with Destiny is you're looking at all his gear, all Brian's gear on screen. None of it matters. That's the lie. That's the illusion. None of it matters. The only time that gear may matter is in the like top 1% content. And we're talking, the hardest nightfalls and maybe hard raids. I'm actually thinking that hard nightfalls require loot synergy more than even the hard mode raids, because you have the champions and the champions tend to have their like different mechanics based on what mod you have. And that's really where the synergy comes in. You could have the worst legendary auto rifle, pistol, bow, whatever in the game. Just as long as you have that mod that allows you to kill that champion, you're Gucci. And that's, I think the problem with Destiny is when you get the new player experience, they have this thing called, I don't know what it's called actually. But you go in and you start up a new character, and you now have to buy all your abilities. You get like one set through level up, but then you have to buy the rest. And subclass 3.0 was really terrible for the game because it homogenized so much of the classes. Like, you want to be a healing warlock, just go play a Titan. You're better off. So it's one of those things where the classes are homogenized. The experience going into the game is so forward built to getting you to the end game, it's not even funny. And then once you get to the end game, you realize there's no point in doing any of it because none of the loot matters. So it's what's that one meme? I can't remember the guy, but he's screaming, "We're in Bobby Kodak's maze,"
Yep.
And that's we're in Jason Jones' maze here. It's a hamster wheel of loot, but it doesn't matter. None of it matters. And that's kind of what's going on with the community right now is like, okay, well, when loot doesn't matter, then we're here for the glam. We're here for the glam, fam. And when you're there for the glam and all the glam's in the cash shop, well, what's the point? When we're getting weapons that were sunset like 4 years ago as rewards for playing brand new content, they just like, maybe they put a take-in filter on it, or maybe they adjusted the perk pool. When that's your rewards and all the like the cool stuff, because Glamour is definitely the reason people play games. Glamour is definitely the reason people go in and play raid content, hard
Destiny
content.
Didn't have to be this way.
I mean,
and it didn't.
Like,
Glamour
WoW
is the
has
true
to remain vertical progression, and you can choose what speed you run on the treadmill at. But you are on the treadmill next to my treadmill. I've got it set at a walk. You've got it set uphill at 15 mile an hour. You're exhausted and panting. And when you hit stop, we are in the same place. Like, you have not covered any ground. It's just a treadmill. But Destiny has these unique weapons that, especially in things like PvP or when you're out in the open world, like they could just do weird stuff. Final Fantasy chooses to make all their relics just effectively item level pretty things. Like they don't ever do something truly unique.
Final
Or
Fantasy
like
went
for
the
Final
other
Fantasy
way,
fans here
right?
that have never played Destiny, imagine
It's-
if each relic modified a class in some way, and that you could still use those in crystalline conflicts. So you like, oh, the Heavensward relic makes your red mage cast twice as, or like gets double instant casts. You're like, well, that seems
It's why I
broken.
was
Could
sorry.
be.
It was why I was fighting for the fact that I was hoping that the Endwalker relics are based on Hildebrand, and Hildebrand is Gold Sorcerer because the Gold Sorcerer is funded by God. But that's why I was fighting for. I was hoping that the Endwalker relics on the final step would give you like an MGP buff while you're inside the Gold Sorcerer. Like you have it on, and it gives you the FC buff, like the 5% extra.
I hate that shit. I'm gonna be the weird one because I know a lot of people here are very big fans of that. Personally, that has made me bounce off of other games because I feel like, okay, if I don't go do that, then anytime I spend in the Gold Saucer is wasting my time until I get that. And so it's like what I prefer is just say it's all glam. For me,